dads. Golfers run for cover as an intense hailstorm hammers the city south. Fears Gertie Road is turning into a hoon strip. Motorbike seized after a dangerous stunt. Dozens of new private rooms for public patients in the northern suburbs. And Port fights for a top 2 finish as the Crows season ends in a whimper.
Live from Adelaide, 7 News with Mike Smithson.
Good evening. 2 17-year-old boys are tonight lucky to be alive after their car flew into a tree, then slammed into a parked car in an eastern suburbs street. The father of one of the teens took photos of the wreckage, saying he wanted to remind his son what stupidity looks like.
Seconds after flying down Landau Avenue,
a really loud crash.
The sound of a Mitsubishi sedan losing control.
Everyone kind of, I think, went, that doesn't sound like something normal.
Locals in Avondale raced to the scene. Inside the car were 2 teenage boys. One had to be cut from the wreckage. Their vehicle ploughed into a tree and spun before smashing into Kira Starling's Kia SUV, parked on the street outside her home.
I came out because I was like, oh, I hope my car's not involved. The main thing was that everyone was okay.
She says the father of one of the 2 boys showed up shortly after and apologised. He also took out his camera and started taking photos.
I just want to remind you of what the hell stupidity looks like.
The 17-year-olds were taken to hospital with minor injuries. Witnesses say 2 nurses and a retired paramedic were among those that leapt into action, tending to the boys until emergency crews arrived.
One crawled into the back seat just trying to get to the passenger, and there was people leaning in the window just trying to offer as much support and assistance for him as they could.
Police are still investigating. So far, no charges have been laid.
Drive safe, don't be silly.
Madison Stanley, 7 News.
Locals have been forced to run for cover after a quick but intense hailstorm battered the city south. Gertie Spurling's at Port Noarlunga, and Gert, the extreme front caught many by surprise.
Smitho, no one here expected it to move through as quickly as it did. Hail the size of small marbles blanketed parts of the region. Kangarilla was pelted by the ice. The Ranella Green turned a sea of white, with golfers forced to duck for cover. Play was halted for 45 minutes before players could safely tee off again.
It looked like snow. It turned pretty white pretty quick, so you couldn't see much green.
It absolutely hammered down. It was good. Yeah. Lightning was a bit scary, but yeah, no, the hail was good. Yeah, it hurt because I didn't have an umbrella, so yeah, it sucked. But
Port Lincoln was smashed too. Almost 13 millimetres of rain's fallen there since 9 a.m, while gusty showers swept across Adelaide's northern suburbs. Fierce winds sending this tree crashing down onto a car at Para Hills. The Bureau is warning another front is expected to cause some damage on Tuesday, but I'll have more on that in the full forecast later this hour. Smitho.
We'll catch you then. Thanks, Gertie. Diners at the Bay have watched in horror as an unregistered motorcyclist performed a dangerous stunt on the wrong side of Gertie Road. Locals have told 7 News it's not the first time the busy tourist area has been used as a hoon strip.
Glenelg on Saturday night, bustling with diners. Suddenly, a dirt bike rider hoons past on one wheel and without lights on the wrong side of Gertie Road. Families, including young children, startled by the sound.
I did hear it and I just closed my window because I thought the hoons were at it again.
Patrols tried to pull over the unregistered motorbike, but say its rider refused to stop, instead leading the police helicopter on a 35-minute chase to Noarlunga Downs.
Our changing society, isn't it? You know, people are bored. Do we need more police presence here?
A 23-year-old man was arrested on Marlett Crescent around 8:30 last night. He was slapped with serious traffic offences and had his bike impounded for 28 days.
I consider they're having fun for themselves, but you need to have more consideration for other people on the roads and the consequences that can happen.
This is not a one-off. Locals say Gertie Road is often used as a hoon strip and fear it's only a matter of time before someone is seriously hurt or killed.
They don't seem to be locked up. They need to be on a program, don't they?
The accused man was granted police bail and will face court in October. Mitchell Sariovsky, 7 News.
And an evening cruise for a couple of Harley riders almost ended in disaster at One Tree Hill. One of the motorcyclists told police he saw his mate swerve just after 9:30. His machine left Cornishman's Hill Road, hit a ditch and sent the 59-year-old flying. He's been taken to hospital with serious injuries. Police are investigating. Now to some much needed good news for our ailing public hospitals. Tomorrow morning, the Lyell McEwin will open an additional 48 beds, all of them in single rooms. But the Premier admits it's no silver bullet.
2 new wards housing 48 new beds.
I couldn't be happier, and it's beautiful.
To help relieve the growing pressure on the health system in Adelaide's north.
These beds, I don't think people realise how much it means.
All single rooms, we think that that's the way healthcare should be delivered these days.
12 acute surgical beds will also be fast-tracked by relocating the hospital's outpatient space.
It takes time to build additional hospital beds. You can't click your fingers and have wards like this appear.
But it's the delays for elective surgery that have critics seething. More than 22,000 people are on the state's waiting list, over 4,000 of them now considered overdue.
The health system continues to go from crisis to crisis.
That there was more elective surgery done in July, even when there were statewide restrictions, than happened in July the year before.
Another 32 beds will be made available here at the Lyell McEwin by the end of next year. But even then, authorities admit it won't be enough.
The ageing of our population and the growing of our population are putting unprecedented levels of demand on the hospital system.
Meaning these new beds are expected to be full even before tomorrow's end. Ashley Kanowski, 7 News.
There's been another horrifying instance of domestic violence, this time playing out in front of shocked onlookers in Sydney. A man armed with a box cutter allegedly slashed at his partner while driving, only stopping when he crashed his car. 6 people, including a police officer, were injured.
Engadine, in the middle of the Prince's Highway, a 58-year-old man covered in blood with a box cutter, shouting as he's surrounded by locals.
He was ranting, he was really quite manic.
I walked in there and I just went, mate, you need to calm down a bit.
Police arrive and with taser drawn, an officer approaches. The man turns and runs as police give chase on the edge of the highway using tasers.
And he was running up here, got tasered there, and got tasered up where the...
Finally captured after he'd self-harmed, stabbing himself in the neck in front of shocked witnesses, including young ones.
I saw blood on the man. It's a bit scary.
Just before 9 a.m, he'd been caught on CCTV, driving into an intersection, slamming into the side of a car.
It was going at significant speed.
Driving behind the crash, Sharks chairman Steve Mace went to assist, but found the man stabbing a female passenger.
In the legs, in the side, wherever he could go, and I was then trying to drag her out of the car to stop the stabbing. He was sort of swiping at us. There was another gentleman that came to help.
Mace suffered a cut hand, says the man was complaining about the woman, his 48-year-old partner.
It was all to do with she changed his radio station on him. We're all dead anyway.
When the man got out, to protect the woman, the pair guarded the passenger door.
And every time he kept coming at him or to get back to her, it was like a standoff which felt like an hour.
I heard the guy yelling out and just all talking about he's going to kill himself, kill her.
Police allege the man started the attack on his partner while he was driving.
We believe that's when the assault was occurring in the car, and as a result they then collided with another vehicle.
With multiple stab wounds, the woman's in a critical condition. Her partner also critical, treated at the scene with lacerations to his neck and arms.
He is known to police for a number of matters.
The occupants of the car his vehicle crashed into, only minor injuries.
It was a miracle that they weren't hurt. She was just badly shaken up and I think has a broken wrist.
A police officer involved in the foot chase suffered a knife wound to his wrist. A man in his 40s, one of those who tried to assist, has a stab wound in his abdomen.
Quite frightening, but very, very brave on those people's behalf.
As a community comes to terms with the violence that's played out before them.
No, not good. Scary. Pretty full on.
Police are appealing to the public for any dash cam vision as investigators piece together the terrifying events.
It's a horrible thing to see on a Sunday morning in your own community. You know, you don't want to see stuff like that sort of thing.
Chris Marr, 7 News.
From tomorrow, most Australian workers will have the right to refuse unreasonable contact from their bosses outside working hours. But the changes may be short-lived, with the Coalition doubling down on a promise to rip up the laws if it wins the next election.
Ignoring work calls, emails and texts when you're off the clock becomes law on Monday, a major win for workers' rights to disconnect.
A bit of an infringement on your life if you are stuck and you're trying to do stuff with your family and the boss calls.
I don't think your employer should be able to call you after hours if you're not getting paid for it.
The changes apply to companies with 15 or more employees from tomorrow. Small business has a year's grace period, but the reform isn't as simple as it sounds. Under altered awards, an employee has the right to disconnect unless it is unreasonable to do so. The Fair Work Commission will consider the reason for contact, emergencies, level of disruption, a worker's seniority, salary and personal circumstances.
If you're a senior lawyer and there's something comes up, it wouldn't be reasonable to refuse that contact. But if you're the junior receptionist and the boss wants to contact you on a Sunday, you know why.
Business groups fear the changes will lead to mass litigation.
So the lawyers will be the winners, small business will be the losers.
Despite public polling showing strong support for the right to disconnect, the opposition tells 7 News it will honour a promise to scrap the laws if it wins the next election.
Employers and even employees now face thousands of dollars in fines for contacting the employee outside of working hours.
A new pathway for casual workers to become permanent will also be axed by Peter Dutton, as Labor and the unions prepare to weaponise the issue in the campaign.
Under Peter Dutton, unfortunately, you'll be working longer for less.
Josh Martin, 7 News.
The Country Liberal Party has claimed victory in the Northern Territory election, a landslide win, booting Labor from power after 8 years in office. Crime dominated the campaign, but the Coalition says broader economic problems were at play.
We've had so much holding us back across the Northern Territory over many years with Territory Labor. So some lessons for the Prime Minister. Absolutely.
We take every election seriously. We look for whatever lessons we can learn from all of them.
Polls indicate Labor is also likely to lose the Queensland election in October. We are on the verge of a major escalation in the war in the Middle East tonight. Israel has declared a state of emergency after trading airstrikes with Hezbollah fighters in Lebanon. The whole world now bracing for the conflict to move into a terrifying new direction.
Rockets lighting up the sky over Lebanon. A preemptive attack from Israel.
The IDF is striking terror targets in Lebanon, from which Hezbollah was planning to launch their attacks on Israeli civilians.
Hezbollah's own barrage of rockets showing that the killing of a senior commander in Beirut wouldn't go unpunished.
And now we're waiting to see what the next move is in this situation.
The latest tit for tat prompting grim faces from Israel's war cabinet as they declare a state of emergency. Tel Aviv's Ben Gurion airport shut down, no flights in or out for hours.
We have no clue. We hear that there's drones, missiles, rockets. You see everyone's faces, everyone's scared.
Foreign Minister Penny Wong tonight flagging Australia's concern at an escalation in tensions. Citizens told to steer clear of Lebanon and exercise caution in Israel.
Potentially we are starting a second phase of this war beyond Israel versus Hamas in Gaza.
The latest skirmish a blow for ceasefire negotiations, despite optimism from some corners.
Mr. President, how are the hostage talks going?
I think that, the chances of success in the ceasefire negotiations are pretty much zero.
Mike Amor, 7 News.
The 2 astronauts trapped on the International Space Station won't be coming home until next year. NASA has revealed Boeing's troubled Starliner isn't up to the job. Space agency tapping the company's biggest competitor to finally bring the pair back to Earth.
Stranded in space, the Boeing Starliner that carried Sonny Williams and Butch Wilmore out of this world deemed unfit to bring them back.
space flight is risky, and a test flight by nature is neither safe nor routine.
And liftoff of Starliner at Atlas V.
The Boeing Starliner's test flight launched in June, the first ever with a crew on board. They made it safely to their destination.
So here we are in the front of the International Space Station.
But the capsule suffered setbacks on the way there, with helium leaks and thrusters that abruptly stopped working. Boeing spent weeks working on the problem and had argued it was ready for the mission home.
I would say that we've had a lot of tense discussions, right, because the call was close.
NASA instead tapping Boeing's rival, SpaceX, to bring them back to Earth.
This has not been an easy decision, but it is absolutely the right one.
The SpaceX capsule will head to the International Space Station next month, but won't return to Earth until February next year.
The Crew 8 vehicle will serve as the lifeboat for Butch and Sunny.
Boeing and NASA will work together to bring the Starliner uncrewed back to Earth, a major test for Boeing to prove its capsule can handle the journey home. In the United States, Miley Hogan, 7 News.
At its peak, the Royal Show drew over 700,000 visitors to Wayville. That was back in the 80s. When would you believe it? It would cost just $5 for an adult to get in and $1.50 for kids.
Good luck, mums and dads. Rides this year are about $2 each. Sample bags range in price from $1 to $5. Hope you've saved hard.
Yeah. Well, we'll go for a very affordable trip back in time a bit later on Flashback. Those were the days, Bruce.
I can remember them.
Only just.
They're still doing pounds and pence.
Yeah, still. Yeah. Yes. Hey, Bruce, let's move on. It's been an exciting day. I'm still coming down from 2 matches ago.
It's been an enormous day of football. The season that just keeps on giving, and it isn't over just yet. First up, the Bulldogs locked in September action. Then St Kilda tore out Carlton Hearts. And the Blues will now be barracking for Port Adelaide, believe it or not, as the Dockers host the pair. All that and plenty more coming up a little bit later.
I've never seen a day like it, I'd have to say. And that's AFL. Thanks, Bruce. Former union boss John Setka has warned of walkouts and political payback over the construction arm of the CFMEU going into administration. That exclusive story is next. A breakthrough after a stabbing frenzy in Germany. A new twist in the Italian super yacht tragedy. And forget the Sunday sleep-in as hundreds turn out for the Adelaide Marathon. There are warnings of chaos on building sites across the country after the construction arm of the CFMEU was taken over by an administrator. In an exclusive interview with Seven, former union boss John Setka warns of walkouts and political payback.
Forced into administration, John Setka says union loyalists could soon walk out on construction jobs across the country.
All the members across the country want a massive rally, massive strike across the thing, and I know the leaders are sort of saying don't do that at the moment because it could get out of control, to be quite honest, because people are very, very angry.
The die-hard Labor voter, a believer no more, and he has a message for the Prime Minister and his Labor premiers heading to elections.
The Labor Party should be very nervous. I mean, they will get paid back for this. They always do. They think they're going to get a sugar hit. They think there's going to be in the polls, Albo looks tough now because he's taken on the CFMEU. It don't work that way.
His fury comes as a secret deal was discovered in a series of interviews for Seven's Spotlight when nothing was off the table.
What's the truth about why you resigned from the CFMEU?
The truth is there was a deal struck. I offered myself when I heard that there could be an administrator appointed.
A claim the federal government didn't deny, and Setka also didn't deny the claims of bikies in the construction division.
So there are bikies in the CFMEU?
Well, I'd assume there is. There is bikies in all different industries. I mean, it is actually not illegal to be a bikie.
Pushed on kickbacks and payments for contracts.
You're the head of the most militant union for all those years, and you're telling me you've never seen corruption, you've never seen anything that crosses a line.
I have seen things in the past. We've had our own issues in there with people, and we have, over the years, we have dealt with a lot of issues. We have removed people from office.
How have you dealt with them?
We've dealt with it internally. I mean, we don't go and put it out in headlights.
And even with his union in tatters, his job gone, Setka's worries are never over.
There are people that want you dead.
Probably.
How certain are you of that?
As certain as you can get.
Chanel Vella, 7 News.
And you can see the full interview with John Setka tonight on 7 News Spotlight at 8:40, and that's on 7 and 7+. Islamic State has claimed responsibility for a mass stabbing at a festival in Germany, which left 3 people dead. A man has now turned himself in.
Those now being left for the 3 people stabbed to death at the celebrations. Germany's Chancellor called it a serious crime and said the killer must be severely punished.
Furchtbares Verbrechen passiert.
We're all mourning the dead and worrying about the injured. We must not accept this and never come to terms with it. Solingen's city's festival was just warming up as evening hit, but DJs were interrupted with reports of people being stabbed. Music was switched off, this performer says. Someone came up and said, "Hey, we already have 3 people dead." 2 men and a woman in their 50s and 60s were killed, 8 others injured, 4 fighting for their lives. Less than 24 hours after the attack, the Islamic State group claimed responsibility. Posting online, the perpetrator carried out the attack in revenge for Muslims in Palestine and everywhere. Specialist German police raided an asylum seeker centre near the scene of the attack. A 26-year-old Syrian man was arrested. Police and prosecutors say he turned himself in and admitted to the crime. A 15-year-old boy was also arrested in connection with the incident. Investigations are in the early stages. We have not yet been able to identify a motive, the prosecutor says. However, initial suspicion of a terrorist-related offence cannot be ruled out. The festival has been cancelled, neighbouring cities and towns calling off their own events as fears this latest deadly attack won't be the last. In London, Joel Dry, 7 News.
Italy's super yacht tragedy is now the subject of a manslaughter investigation. Prosecutors are weighing up whether it could be a case of multiple manslaughter and causing a shipwreck through negligence. For now, the probe isn't focusing on any individual. British tech tycoon Mike Lynch, his daughter and 5 others were killed when their yacht capsized in a storm off Sicily. A fleet of luxury vehicles has been seized from the Romanian home of influencer Andrew Tate. The cars were towed away one by one, the collection including a Ferrari and a Lamborghini. The 77-year-old is under house arrest as part of a sprawling investigation into human trafficking. Well, it's not how all of us choose to start a lazy Sunday morning. Hundreds of runners got up bright and early for this year's Adelaide Festival Marathon. Now in its 46th year, some even chose to push a pram around the 2-lap course in the city. There were prizes for those who were first past the post, but a huge pat on the back to everyone who took part. Well done. Well, there's been more fallout in the wake of the assassination attempt on Donald Trump as heads roll of the Secret Service. Also, the major rescue operation to free a humpback whale trapped off the Gold Coast. An unsuspecting tourist swallowed by a sudden sinkhole, and a crashing end to half a century of power generation. At least 5 Secret Service agents have been placed on leave following the failed assassination attempt of Donald Trump. Among them is the head of the Pittsburgh field office who coordinated security with local police, as well as a member of Trump's personal detail. The service's director, Kimberly Cheetle, has also resigned after failing to answer questions about the attack and her agent's response. A young humpback whale has been freed after an hours-long rescue mission on the Gold Coast. It became entangled in a shark net and researchers fear it won't be the last.
A few hundred metres off the beach at Coolangatta, a helpless humpback almost completely wrapped in a shark net.
Its head was in the nets, left pectoral fin was entangled, and the net was over its back.
Thankfully, rescue teams weren't too far away. Battling wind and rough conditions, crews got close enough to cut away the net.
There were so many white caps out there, it was really hard to even see the shark boys at the shark nets. So they had that plus swell to battle with as well.
The 8-metre mammal not making things any easier, rolling about, becoming even more tangled.
It really couldn't move anywhere, so it was able to move its fluke. It wasn't entangled.
After some 3 hours, the humpback was finally freed, seemingly in good spirits as it disappeared into the depths. This is the first whale freed from a shark net on the Gold Coast so far this season. 6 others have also been rescued after becoming tangled in fishing equipment.
Now as the whales are tracking back to Antarctica, they're going to be coming closer to shore, and so we're probably going to see, unfortunately, quite a few more.
Reigniting debate around the use of shark nets in Queensland.
Those nets definitely shouldn't be out there. I just think it's very upsetting seeing that kind of stuff.
Yeah, if they're getting stuck, then get rid of them.
I think they're a requirement for just for tourists and locals, for their safety, basically.
A happy ending today, at least. On the Gold Coast, Paige Van Lunteren, 7 News.
Good result there. A woman is missing after she fell 8 metres down a sinkhole in Kuala Lumpur. The 48-year-old Indian tourist was walking when the footpath gave way. It sparked a major rescue operation, with teams searching along a 7-kilometre sewage line. They are yet to work out what caused the sinkhole. A retired power plant in the US has come crashing down in a controlled blast. Drone video shows the moment the site was reduced to a cloud of dust as 4 stacks slammed into the ground. The coal station in New Mexico had been generating electricity for half a century. Well, the torch has been lit and the countdown is on to the Paralympics in Paris. That's next on 7 News. And we're off to the Royal Show, 80s style. Wait until you hear how cheap it was. The torch has been lit for the Paralympics. The ceremony took place in the town outside London, considered the birthplace of the Games.
It is here, a little over 76 years ago, that the visionary pioneer, Sir Ludwig Guttmann, created the Paralympic movement.
The torch relay will see the flame carried across France, finishing in Paris for Wednesday's opening ceremony. There's a waiting list at the Women's and Children's Hospital for one of the best jobs in the world. It involves singing bedtime stories and cuddling babies. Sounds great. Our volunteers are lending a hand to families with preterm and newborn bubs. Don't miss that story a little later in 7 News. With families saving money to go to the Royal Show next week, on Flashback tonight, we're heading back to the 80s. And while the prices have risen a lot over the last 40 years, many of the main attractions remain the same.
Welcome to Wayville in the 80s, when the animals still took centre stage. Wood chopping drew a big crowd.
8, 9, 10. It's an art that isn't dying despite the widespread use of chainsaws.
Precision Commodore drivers carved up the main arena, and Indians and pirates were all the rage. So how much for a ride?
$1.20 seems to be the normal price this year, and if you're hungry, there are plenty of hot dogs selling for $1.30.
Although by 1986 you needed to see your bank manager.
Good luck, mums and dads. Rides this year are about $2 each. Sample bags range in price from $1 to $5. Hope you've saved hard.
And naturally, we think this one represents top value. So by showtime, everybody will know Adelaide like we do.
In 1987, it wasn't the cost of the bags that shocked, but the contents.
Handcuffs, guns, plastic knives, fake blood and severed hands are among the items available in more than 100 different bags that will be on sale.
And how much did it cost to get in that year?
While an adult admission ticket remains the same as last year at $5, admission for children under 15 rises from $1.50 to $2.
These days, an adult weekend ticket is $33. It's $20.50 for kids. One of the big draw cards in the mid-80s was this giant Tyrannosaurus Rex.
he'll be able to move and roar and scare the living daylights out of your kids.
But it all ended in tears when his roar was silenced by a huge fire.
In just 9 minutes, it was all over. As police said at the scene, the dinosaur is extinct.
In '86, the show went to town.
South Australia's Jubilee Royal Show began today with a parade of vintage agricultural equipment through the city centre.
Attendance in the 80s was off the charts.
Adelaide has always been the most popular show in the country. Last year it attracted 706,000 people. That's about half of the state's total population.
These days, about 400,000 go each year. One thing that hasn't changed is parking challenges in the parklands.
The council had hoped that the persistent rain might ease and that the parklands could remain open, but it wasn't to be. And when vehicles started to bog down, the parks were closed off.
Or reporters doing a piece to camera on a ride.
Scott Mathias enjoying himself at the Adelaide Royal for Eyewitness News.
You can bet there'll be one next week.
I really miss the dinosaur and the beige suits.
I can't work out how I never got a chance to go and do the story.
I don't know. Well, you didn't have a beige suit. That ruled you out automatically.
Thank goodness.
Hey, Bruce, have we worked out who's playing AFL finals yet?
Michael, it's complicated.
Yes,
it's still happening now over in Perth with the game between the Dockers and Port Adelaide. Coming up after the break, we'll see where that last game of the home and away season actually stands, how St Kilda stole the points and a possible final spot from Carlton. And the Bulldogs, they made sure they were in charge of their future against the Giants. Welcome back. The Power needs to win or lose by less than 26 points against Freo to guarantee finishing in second place. Charlie Dixon was a late out with sickness, replaced by Dante Vicentini. They lead by a point late in the second quarter, while there's a concern for Alia, who limped from the ground midway through the quarter.
Pre-game Dockers fans already had a little win after learning their season was still alive thanks to the Saints. When the game started, the Dockers were a little too enthusiastic and Burn Jones made them pay.
Get them off to the hot start. It's Port Adelaide who strike first.
The Dockers' transition was excellent to equalise, and this was shaping to be a highly skilled contest with Drew finishing off some hard work.
Drew onto the left boot, hasn't kicked a goal since very early in the season.
Horn Francis took a risk and was lucky not to get punished. Zirk Thatcher was solid in defence, but eventually the Dockers broke through and their run was significant.
On that lethal left boot, lets it fly!
Rioli got one back and the Power trailed by 8 points at the first break. In the second, Farrell slipped and gave the Dockers a chance, but they couldn't finish. Down the other end, Horn Francis made it look easy.
Handball Horn Francis, you can see what's ahead and he knows exactly how to get there.
Again, inaccurate kicking kept the Power within touch, but their biggest problem was finding a target. They didn't register a single mark inside 50 until Vicentini popped up and the big man made the most of it.
Looks good off the boot. How about that for a finish?
Andrew Hayes, 7 News.
Crows coach Matthew Nicks has conceded a wasted season where his team fell well short of its own expectations. It was capped off with a disappointing 31-point loss to Sydney that was plagued by inconsistency, much like the Crows' year. Nicks has promised the club will be aggressive in the off-season.
With only pride to play for,
we didn't really finish the year off quite the way we wanted. I'm not sure what happened with our ball movement tonight, with our ball use and our decision making. You know, the difference between our best and our worst is still too large. That gap's still too large.
Against the minor premiers, it was on show when the game was there to be won in the first half. The Swans were clinical from centre clearance and punished the Crows' mistakes. Riley Thilthorpe was the standout. 3 goals and 7 marks inside 50 provided some hope for the future.
And I think he showed how important he is. You know, playing down there alongside Tex and Darcy, he's going to be really important for us.
A new deal for Taylor Walker is imminent, with Nicks again promising a busy trade period ahead of his 6th year in charge.
We're going to be aggressive with acquisition. We want to keep bringing in, high talent, experienced players that are going to help our group.
A group that finished 15th with just 8 wins after promising so much.
How do you rate our season? Well, it's a really disappointing one for us. We didn't hit an expectation that we came into the season. Our expectation was to play finals footy, and at the moment we're not playing.
The club will conduct player exit interviews over the next 3 days. Tom Wilson, 7 News.
A Brodie Kemp miss and a stunning snap from Jack Higgins has broken Blues' hearts. Carlton led up until the dying seconds against St Kilda. Now it's praying for a power win against Freo so it can still play finals.
The sinking feeling of despair.
A Saints goal with 20 seconds left, potentially season-ending for the Blues.
It's a goal!
Carlton clawed back the lead with 6 minutes remaining. Finals on the horizon. Despite firing the first shot of the match,
maybe for the opening goal, but Blues fans are up and elated.
Ross Lyon had an eye on spoiling the party. Only 27 players fit, the rest watching the match in the rooms or in the company of St Kilda's recruiting boss. And Carlton fans had the Blues. Their side had to lift to battle for the 8. But an irate skipper gave up a goal just before three-quarter time.
They will not like this, the Blues.
Nor do they like the painstaking wait, clinging on to 8th, but their future in the hands of Fremantle. Laura Spurway, 7 News.
And the Western Bulldogs sealed their spot in the top 8 with a big last quarter in Ballarat. They beat the Giants by 37 points to lock in an elimination final against Hawthorn, but they might be without a star defender.
The equation was simple for the Dogs: win and you're in.
Book your tickets, Dogs fans. Bring on September.
Liam Jones will have a nervous wait from the MRO.
He takes possession, bang, slung into the ground.
The Giants took an 11-point lead into the first break. With the breeze in their back, the Bulldogs responded with the next 5.
Oh, gee, that was good. That is exceptional.
A head clash then forced the skipper from the field, but it seems nothing would stand in the Bont's way with September around the corner. His counterpart had other ideas on the stroke of three-quarter time.
One of the greatest of the greats sends it long and strong.
The Dogs kicked the last 4 of the game, hoping to ride a wave of momentum through to the finals, where they'll face the Hollywood Hawks in Week 1. Tim Hipsley, 7 News.
And last night, Brisbane couldn't kick straight, but still sealed 5th spot with a 20-point win over Essendon. So, barring a massive loss in the West, Port will host Geelong in a qualifying final. The other will be a Sydney derby. Brisbane will host either Carlton or Freo in an elimination final. The other will be the Bulldogs against the Hawks. The Crows finished in 15th place. Ange Postecoglou's Tottenham is up and running in the Premier League. After a frustrating draw in Week 1, Spurs rediscovered their best with a 4-0 thrashing of Everton.
But Spurs go in front. Brilliantly taken by the returning Yves Bissouma.
Massimo Luongo's Ipswich Town led Manchester City 1-0, but the 4-time reigning champs responded with 3 goals in 4 minutes. Erling Haaland netting a hat-trick in the 4-1 win. Arsenal continued its perfect start with a 2-0 win at Aston Villa. Brighton is also 2 from 2 after scoring the 95th minute to beat Manchester United 2-1. Logan Sargent scrambled to safety as his Williams burst into flames after a terrifying high-speed crash in practice at the Dutch Grand Prix.
And that's the results of what happened.
Car's on fire, mate. Car's on fire, so you should jump out. Car's on fire at the rear of the car.
Sargent followed that advice as marshals moved in with fire extinguishers. The American will start from last on the grid if mechanics can repair the car in time. In qualifying, McLaren's Lando Norris claimed pole position ahead of local hero, world champ Max Verstappen, with Aussie Oscar Piastri in 3rd spot. Adam Scott had a nightmare start to his 3rd round of the BMW Championship in Colorado. The 44-year-old fought back to finish with a 2 over 74.
And that will take that left turn, and Adam Scott will have a very good look for a birdie.
The oldest player on the field, Scott's 1 behind American Keegan Palmer. Swedish sensation Ludwig Åberg laughed off a high-altitude nosebleed, then proceeded to drain a monster birdie putt at the first. Don't worry about a nosebleed, that's nothing. That's our sport over in the West. It is half-time. Port Adelaide are leading by a point. Just in case you're wondering, if it's a draw, Freo will probably get in ahead of Carlton. So
a lot of what-ifs in all of this, Bruce.
It's a lot, and it's still going down. Looks like it's going to go to the last siren.
Great season indeed. Thanks for that, Bruce. Well, Brucey, this one's for you. If you're feeling clucky, this story is for you. It's about a professional baby cuddlers. Yes, you heard right. They are a group of volunteers at the Women's and Kids
doesn't have to.
I love it, absolutely love it.
The former nurse is now the envy of volunteers everywhere. Her job description: singing, bedtime stories and cuddling babies.
Stroke her face, her arm, talk to her, pat her, pop a dummy in if she's singing out loudly and needs some extra attention.
She's one of 19 family support volunteers at the Women's and Children's Hospital, lending a hand to families with preterm and newborn babies, including Yama Bohr.
It gives me that peace of mind. If the nurses or the midwives are busy, at least there's someone to comfort.
Her daughter, Achok, arrived rather unexpectedly in June at just 23 weeks gestation and weighing only 700 grams.
Lovely Sunday afternoon doing my mummy duties, and just the whole day got tipped upside down.
Achok has needed round-the-clock care in the neonatal intensive care and special care units, and her parents have their hands full. They simply can't be there all the time.
I have 4 other kids at home, an 11-year-old, a 10, a 7 and a 4-year-old, and she comes right in.
It's peace of mind knowing that if the nurse or midwife is busy, there's someone else there that's keeping an eye on their most precious little baby.
I don't have family myself, so when I retired, this just was fantastic to do. I always leave a note for the parents, so I've got a little slip that I write that thanks for sharing your baby, and this is what I've done with them today while you weren't here.
They support the parents too, emotionally, and even with a hug. They even entertain visiting siblings.
This is a really special program that we have here at the Women's and Children's Hospital. These volunteers are absolute superheroes.
I think if I retire, I'll be in here helping out.
Now, I'm sorry to report there are currently no vacancies for positions that include baby cuddling like this one. In fact, there's likely a wait list. But the hospital is looking for a number of volunteers to fill other positions, perhaps not quite as cute as this one though.
It's a very sought after role, and I don't think anyone that has come on board has left.
And they really go the extra mile too.
Sasa Toto Achok. That's hello baby Achok in Swahili, isn't it? Yes. I'm talking to you in your native tongue. It is.
Els Pathasi, 7 News.
Els, the perfect reporter for that story. Well done. Well, stay with us. Gertie's back after the break with the weather.
After some intense weather today, showers will clear tomorrow and it's staying mild too. I'll have your 7-day forecast live from a windy Port Noarlunga.
Time for the weather now. Gertie joins us again from Port Noarlunga, and Gertie, a calmer day's in store tomorrow.
Smitho, still looking a little bit windy in the morning with some scattered showers about to, but clearing up in the afternoon. So tomorrow should be far less eventful than it was today, that's for sure. In the city at the moment, it is currently 14 degrees. After an overnight low of 12, we hit a top of 18.8. Then August overnight temps on record, it dropped down to just 19 in Cooper Pedy. A strong westerly flow will persist this week with embedded cold fronts leading to windy conditions. A ridge of high pressure will maintain stable conditions across the north. Interstate mostly sunny and 31 for Brisbane, 24 for Sydney, 18 with a possible shower for Melbourne, 16 for Hobart. Back home dry and sunny in the north, 22 is the top for Cooper Pedy and Roxby. Isolated showers about southern coast and ranges, clearing during the afternoon. 19 is the top for Port Lincoln, 21 for Whyalla, 22 for Port Augusta, 16 with a shower or two for Clare, 21 for Renmark and Murray Bridge, and 17 is the top for Naracoorte and Mount Gambier. And there's a strong wind warning for south central and lower southeast coasts. In the city, it's dropping down to 12 overnight, 18's the top, with showers clearing. Westerly winds reaching 20 knots, winds turning northwesterly and easing by late morning. Mostly sunny and 23 Tuesday, windy and 17 Wednesday, 21 on Thursday, 18 with a shower or two Friday, more showers Saturday, and looking windy too. Sunday, much the same. Not the best forecast to kick off the Royal Show, but thankfully there's always plenty to see and do indoors. Smitho.
Thanks, Gertie. Don't disappear into that sea mist down there, will you? Now let's take a look at what's coming up on Sunrise this week.
Hello
Australia, this week on Sunrise, inside the new ready meal boom.
How households are halving their food bills with a dinner delivery service instead of buying raw ingredients from the supermarket.
Also,